Meghan Markle just served up her most desperate play for relatability yet, and honestly, the audacity is staggering. During a cozy little chat at Godmothers bookstore in Summerland, California, the Duchess of Sussex dropped what she clearly thought was a groundbreaking revelation about her hosting style. Picture this. Meghan, surrounded by her carefully curated circle of friends, casually mentions that she always greets guests at her $29 million Montecito mansion while barefoot with an apron on. But here's where it gets really interesting. She didn't just mention this quirky habit in passing. No, she doubled down with a full explanation about why she does it, claiming it demystifies her to people. Let me repeat that, demystifies her. According to Meghan, when people walk into her home and see her standing there without shoes, they apparently think to themselves, "Oh, she's in this with me." She genuinely believes that her bare feet somehow create this magical connection with her guests, softening them up the moment they cross her threshold. The former actress explained it all with such earnest conviction, telling her friend Courtney Adamo that people are drawn straight to the kitchen and suddenly everyone feels comfortable because their hostess decided to skip the Louboutins. But insiders are whispering a very different story behind the scenes. Sources close to the situation reveal that this barefoot confession wasn't some spontaneous, authentic moment of vulnerability. This was calculated. This was strategic. This was Meghan Markle desperately trying to salvage a public image that's been spiraling faster than her Netflix ratings. The timing alone raises massive red flags. Just weeks after her cooking show got absolutely savaged by critics for being out of touch and wildly unrelatable, suddenly Meghan's out here talking about how she's just like us because she doesn't wear shoes in her own house. The bookstore event itself was supposedly about promoting Adamo's new book on creating joyful homes, but royal watchers noticed something telling. Meghan managed to hijack the entire conversation, steering it toward her own lifestyle choices, her own hosting philosophy, her own brand of domesticity. After their little chat wrapped up, the Duchess put on her hostess hat and whisked attendees to the patio where she served glasses of Sauvignon Blanc from her wine line as ever. Because nothing says relatable quite like plugging your luxury products at what's supposed to be someone else's book event. Palace insiders are now claiming this whole barefoot revelation is part of a larger rebrand campaign that Meghan's team has been crafting for months. With her Netflix deal hanging by a thread and public opinion turning increasingly toxic, the Duchess is apparently willing to try anything to convince the world she's not the calculating, image-obsessed Duchess that critics accuse her of being. But here's the problem. The more she tries to prove she's authentic, the more manufactured everything feels. And the barefoot confession? That might just be the most transparent attempt yet. The barefoot revelation didn't happen in a vacuum, and that's what makes this whole situation so incredibly messy. Just weeks before Meghan started preaching about her shoeless hosting philosophy, her Netflix cooking show with Love, Meghan hit the streaming platform and immediately got absolutely destroyed by critics on both sides of the Atlantic. We're talking brutal, scathing reviews that didn't hold back even a little bit. The Guardian called it pointless and suggested it should be the Sussexes' last television show. Variety described it as a Montecito ego trip not worth taking. The Telegraph went even harder, labeling the entire thing an exercise in narcissism filled with extravagant brunches, celebrity pals, and shameless business plugs. But the criticism didn't stop with professional reviewers. Social media erupted with mockery the moment the show dropped. Viewers couldn't believe what they were watching. One viral post captured the absurdity perfectly, highlighting a scene where Meghan takes Trader Joe's peanut butter pretzel nuggets out of their original labeled bag and transfers them into a sandwich bag, which she then labels again. The internet lost its mind. People were asking if this was seriously what Netflix spent millions of dollars producing. Critics questioned whether the Duchess genuinely believed anyone needed her guidance on transferring snacks from one container to another. And then there was the rental mansion situation that really got people talking. Meghan didn't even film the show in her actual home. Despite marketing herself as this authentic lifestyle guru who wanted to share her genuine domestic life, she chose to shoot the entire series in a rented 4-bedroom property down the road. The house, owned by local philanthropists Tom and Sherry Coppola, sits on a 5-acre plot with lemon and avocado trees and looks like something straight out of a Nancy Meyers film. When pressed about this choice, Meghan claimed she wanted to protect the safe haven she and Harry created for their children. She said their kitchen is where Mama just cooks for the family, and having a crew of 80+ people would be too invasive. Royal watchers immediately called out the contradiction. How can you sell authenticity and relatability when everything is staged in someone else's home? British television presenter Stephen Dixon didn't mince words during a segment on GB News, flat out calling the whole thing a load of nonsense. He pointed out that the show is totally fake because it's not her house, it's not her kitchen, and she clearly doesn't spend her days picking strawberries and collecting honey from bees. The whole production, he argued, is just a Netflix fantasy designed to create an illusion that bears no resemblance to Meghan's actual daily life. The Rotten Tomatoes score told the real story. Critics gave the show a dismal 36% rating. Even RuPaul's Drag Race star Katya Zamolodchikova weighed in, tweeting that with Love, Meghan was the most deranged thing she'd ever seen. And this wasn't just British tabloid hatred. American publications like Time and Vanity Fair joined the pile-on, destroying any hope Meghan had of winning over a new audience. Now here's where the barefoot defense gets absolutely ridiculous. Meghan Markle stands there at a bookstore event claiming that greeting guests without shoes somehow makes her relatable and accessible, as if removing footwear magically erases the fact that she lives in a $29 million mansion in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in California. The sheer disconnect is mind-blowing. She's asking the public to believe that her bare feet bridge the gap between her extraordinary wealth and privilege and the average person's reality. Spoiler alert, they don't. Let's talk about what demystifying actually means, because Meghan seems to have a wildly different definition than the rest of us. True authenticity isn't about performative gestures like skipping shoes while you're hosting in your multi-million-dollar estate. It's about genuine vulnerability, honest conversation, and actually acknowledging the privilege you inhabit. Instead, Meghan treats her barefoot routine like it's some revolutionary act of humility that proves she's just a regular person who happens to have staff, security, a professional beekeeper, and enough land to host elaborate garden parties for celebrity friends. Critics are pointing out the absurdity of this entire narrative. Royal commentators note that Meghan curates every single aspect of her public image with military precision. Her Instagram posts are carefully crafted productions. Her Netflix appearances are scripted and staged. Her bookstore event was live-streamed and promotional. Nothing about Meghan's public life is spontaneous or unfiltered. Yet she expects people to buy into this barefoot authenticity performance as if it's a window into her true self. The reality is that going shoeless in your own home is literally what billions of people do every single day without thinking it makes them special or relatable. And let's address the elephant in the room. Meghan's entire lifestyle brand revolves around selling luxury products to people who can afford them. Her As Ever line features premium raspberry jam, expensive wine, and artisanal goods that most families couldn't justify buying on a regular grocery budget. She's not marketing to everyday people struggling to make ends meet. She's targeting wealthy consumers who want a taste of the Duchess lifestyle. So when she turns around and claims her bare feet make her one of the people, it feels like manipulation disguised as connection. Sources close to the situation say Meghan genuinely doesn't understand why people aren't embracing this rebrand attempt. She reportedly believes that if she just shows enough glimpses of casual domesticity, the public will warm up to her again. But the strategy is backfiring spectacularly because it highlights how out of touch she really is. Regular people don't need to announce that they go barefoot in their own homes. They don't view it as a statement about their character or a tool for making guests comfortable. It's just normal behavior that doesn't require explanation or justification. The hypocrisy becomes even more glaring when you consider that Meghan has spent years complaining about media intrusion and lack of privacy, yet she volunteers intimate details about her hosting habits when it serves her brand-building purposes. She wants control over the narrative, but only when it paints her in a flattering light. But wait, it gets even weirder. Meghan isn't the only member of the Sussex household who's apparently committed to this whole barefoot lifestyle obsession. The entire family seems to have bought into this casual Californian aesthetic, and honestly, it's raising some serious eyebrows among royal watchers who see this as less about comfort and more about a coordinated image strategy that's gone completely off the rails. Let's rewind to February 2021, when Harry and Meghan announced they were expecting their second child. The couple released this black and white photo that was supposed to be romantic and intimate, showing them lounging under a tree in their Montecito garden. Meghan's baby bump was on full display, and everything seemed picture perfect until people zoomed in and noticed Harry's feet. The Duke of Sussex was completely barefoot, and his soles looked absolutely filthy. Social media exploded with comments ranging from disgust to bewilderment. People were begging the prince to buy some shoes and put them away. The backlash was swift and merciless, with critics questioning whether this was really the image a former senior royal should be projecting to the world. But the Sussex barefoot saga didn't end there. Little Lilibet, now 4 years old, has become the poster child for the family's shoeless philosophy. Royal fans have noticed something striking about every single photo and video Meghan shares of her daughter. The kid is almost always barefoot. Whether she's running around the backyard in videos posted for International Day of the Girl, exploring the grounds of their estate while holding hands with her mother, or even during the family's trip to Disneyland to celebrate Lilibet's 4th birthday, the toddler consistently appears without shoes or slippers. In one particularly telling image, Lilibet was dressed head to toe in an adorable pink outfit, complete with a 35-pound rainbow bag from British toy brand Jellycat, but her feet were completely bare. Critics started asking uncomfortable questions. Is this really about comfort and connection, or is this Meghan imposing her image obsession onto her children? Some child development experts weighed in cautiously, noting that while going barefoot can be healthy for developing feet, the consistency with which Lilibet appears shoeless in public-facing content suggests it might be more about maintaining a specific aesthetic than genuine parenting choices. Royal commentators are now connecting the dots between all these barefoot moments and Meghan's broader branding strategy. The theory goes like this. By presenting her entire family as casual, unpretentious California dwellers who reject formality and embrace natural living, Meghan hopes to position herself as the anti-royal. She wants to be seen as someone who escaped the stuffy constraints of palace life and found authentic freedom in Montecito. The bare feet become symbolic of that liberation, a visual shorthand for rejecting protocol and embracing a more grounded existence. But here's the problem with that narrative. It feels manufactured precisely because it's so consistent and deliberate. When every family photo includes strategic barefoot shots, when Meghan brings up her shoeless hosting in public appearances, when even the pregnancy announcement features dirty feet front and center, it stops looking natural and starts looking like performance art. To really understand why Meghan's barefoot obsession has become such a lightning rod for criticism, we need to travel back in time to a moment that reportedly set the tone for years of royal family tension. This whole casual shoeless approach didn't start in California. It actually traces back to Meghan's very first meeting with Prince William and Kate Middleton, and according to the Duchess herself, it was a disaster wrapped in denim and bare feet. During the couple's bombshell Netflix docuseries Harry and Meghan that dropped in 2022, the former actress revealed intimate details about meeting the Prince and Princess of Wales for the first time. Meghan admitted she was wearing ripped jeans and was completely barefoot when William and Kate came over to visit. She thought nothing of it at the time, explaining that she's always been a hugger and assumed the formality the royals displayed in public wouldn't carry over behind closed doors. But she was wrong. Dead wrong. Meghan described the encounter as jarring for the British royals, admitting she quickly realized that the formality on the outside absolutely carried through on the inside. Kate and William reportedly maintained their composed, proper demeanor, even in what should have been a relaxed, private setting. The clash of expectations was immediate and uncomfortable. Here was Meghan, fresh from her laid-back Los Angeles lifestyle, expecting casual warmth and informal connection. There were the Cambridges, maintaining the royal reserve and protocol that had been drilled into them since childhood. Sources close to the situation now claim this first meeting planted seeds of resentment that would grow into full-blown family warfare. Palace insiders whisper that Kate was genuinely offended by Meghan's casual presentation. The ripped jeans and bare feet weren't seen as authentic or relatable. They were interpreted as disrespectful, a sign that Meghan either didn't understand or didn't care about the importance of the occasion. Meeting your boyfriend's brother, who happens to be the future king, apparently warranted more effort than Meghan was willing to give. Royal commentators have spent years analyzing this moment, and many now argue that what Meghan framed as cultural differences was actually something more problematic. It wasn't about American informality versus British formality. It was about Meghan's apparent belief that her way of doing things was superior, more authentic, more real than the stuffy royal protocols. She positioned herself as the relatable one, the genuine one, while implicitly casting William and Kate as uptight and fake for maintaining composure and decorum. The barefoot detail has become particularly symbolic in retrospect. Critics point out that choosing to remain shoeless when meeting your partner's family for the first time, especially when that family is literally the British royal family, suggests either profound ignorance or deliberate provocation. Either Meghan genuinely didn't understand the significance of the moment, which raises questions about her preparation and cultural awareness, or she understood perfectly well and decided to make a statement about refusing to conform to expectations. Fast forward to today and Meghan is still using her bare feet as a symbol of authenticity and connection, but the strategy that supposedly demystifies her for guests apparently mystified and alienated the royals from day one. If Meghan thought her barefoot hosting philosophy would win over viewers of her Netflix show, she was in for a brutal awakening. The cooking series didn't just fail to impress audiences, it actively horrified them with a series of kitchen disasters that had food safety experts and regular viewers alike questioning whether the Duchess has any business teaching anyone about homemaking. And yes, she was barefoot through most of it, which only added to the growing sense that this entire production was a train wreck disguised as aspirational lifestyle content. The most explosive controversy erupted in episode 3, when eagle-eyed viewers spotted something absolutely shocking in Meghan's refrigerator. During a cooking segment, the Duchess opened the fridge door to reveal raw chicken pieces sitting completely uncovered on a shelf, with fruits and vegetables positioned directly below the meat. The images went viral within hours, sparking outrage across social media platforms. Food safety professionals were appalled. One viewer pointed out that no serious chef or person who knows food would ever store raw chicken on an open grate shelf above produce. The risk of cross-contamination and salmonella was off the charts. Critics flooded comment sections demanding to know who was on Meghan's production team and why nobody caught this major faux pas before the episode aired. People who'd been watching cooking shows for decades noted they'd never seen raw chicken stored that way except as an example of what not to do. The proper methods were extensively discussed. Chicken should remain in its package, be placed in a covered bowl, stored in a sealed bag, or at minimum positioned on the bottom shelf away from ready-to-eat foods. Meghan's approach violated every basic food safety guideline, Yet there it was, broadcast to millions of Netflix subscribers as if it were perfectly normal. But the food safety scandal was just one piece of a much larger puzzle of incompetence on display throughout the series. RuPaul's Drag Race star Katya Zamolodchikova summed up what many viewers were thinking when she tweeted that the show was the most deranged thing she'd ever seen. The criticism wasn't just coming from predictable British tabloids anymore. American critics were eviscerating the show with a level of venom that shocked even seasoned royal watchers. Time magazine delivered a particularly devastating blow, noting that the irony of the Sussexes' endless self-portraiture is that the more they say about themselves, the less real they seem. The reviews kept piling on like a disaster that couldn't be stopped. The Independent gave With Love Meghan a 1-star rating and called it queasy and exhausting. British talk show panelist Jane Moore admitted she found the whole thing boring and that her attention kept drifting. Even viewers who tuned in hoping to learn something came away empty-handed and frustrated. One person tweeted they bailed after the first 15 minutes, describing the show as empty, vain, fake, and vomit-inducing. The 36% Rotten Tomatoes critics score became a permanent stain on Meghan's attempt to rebrand herself as a lifestyle guru. Publications like The Guardian, Variety, and Vanity Fair all delivered scathing assessments that left no doubt about the show's failure. Now let's talk about the real elephant in the room that nobody's supposed to mention but everyone's thinking. The Barefoot authenticity campaign and the whole relatable hostess persona aren't happening in isolation. They're perfectly timed with Meghan's aggressive push to launch and promote her as-ever lifestyle brand, and the commercial manipulation behind every supposedly genuine moment is becoming impossible to ignore. Here's how the game works. Meghan positions herself as this down-to-earth, accessible person who just wants to share her love of cooking and hosting with the world. She talks about greeting guests barefoot to make them feel comfortable. She films a Netflix show where she's constantly padding around kitchens without shoes, creating this image of casual California living. But then boom, she's serving her as-ever Sauvignon Blanc at the bookstore event. She's promoting her raspberry jam throughout the Netflix series. She's plastering her brand logo across social media with carefully timed announcements that coincide with her public appearances. The timing is absolutely calculated. Just days after her barefoot hosting revelation at Godmothers bookstore, Meghan posted on Instagram asking fans to save the date for October 28, 2025, with her as-ever branding front and center. The post featured her strolling casually among trees in a black dress and white cardigan, reaching up toward branches while piano music played in the background. The whole aesthetic screamed authenticity and natural beauty, but it was promoting a commercial venture designed to extract money from consumers who want a piece of the Duchess lifestyle. Royal watchers are pointing out the staggering hypocrisy of this approach. Meghan claims she wants to demystify herself and connect with regular people, yet every demystifying moment somehow doubles as a marketing opportunity for her luxury brand. The wine she serves isn't just wine, it's her wine that you can purchase. The jam she makes isn't just homemade preserves, it's a product she'll eventually sell through her company. Even the barefoot hosting philosophy gets weaponized as part of the brand identity, positioning as ever as the lifestyle choice of someone who's authentic and grounded rather than pretentious and performative. But here's where it gets really messy. Meghan promoted her raspberry jam on Instagram at a time when the product wasn't even available for purchase. Royal commentators noted this violated basic business principles. She appeared on a Fortune program touting her business acumen while simultaneously marketing products she had nothing to sell. The website launched with limited inventory that sold out immediately, leaving potential customers frustrated and questioning whether this was genuine demand or artificial scarcity designed to create buzz. The as-ever brand itself has been dogged by controversy from the start. The logo faced plagiarism accusations from the mayor of a small Majorcan town who claimed it bore striking similarities to their 14th century coat of arms. The name as ever apparently conflicts with an existing New York clothing brand. Every aspect of the launch has been messy and criticized, yet Meghan continues pushing forward, using her barefoot relatability shtick as the emotional hook to draw people into her commercial ecosystem. And here's where this story takes a complicated turn that nobody really wants to address but absolutely needs to be discussed. As the criticism of Meghan's barefoot relatability campaign and her Netflix show reached fever pitch, a counter-narrative emerged claiming that the backlash isn't really about authenticity or hypocrisy at all. According to some commentators and defenders, the real issue is that people simply cannot handle seeing a black woman living a life of luxury and leisure, embracing what's been called the soft life aesthetic. Leslie Gray Streeter, a columnist for the Baltimore Banner, published a piece arguing that the real reason people are mad at Meghan's lifestyle show boils down to racism and jealousy, couched in racism, with a little classism thrown in for good measure. Her argument centers on the idea that white lifestyle gurus like Ina Garten and the aspirational worlds created in Nancy Meyers films have been celebrated for decades, featuring wealthy women sipping Chardonnay in beautiful kitchens overlooking stunning vistas. But when Meghan attempts the same formula, she gets destroyed. Streeter points out that the soft life requires money and the financial freedom to buy time for leisure activities like elaborate hosting and homemade preserves. She argues that black femininity isn't expected to inhabit that space, and seeing Meghan claim it triggers a specific kind of resentment. The suggestion is that critics are applying a double standard, where white women can be aspirational without being accused of pretension, but black women who attempt the same thing get labeled as uppity, inauthentic, or out of touch. NPR featured an interview with Streeter where she expanded on this theory, noting that people resent women who don't try to be nice. Referencing Martha Stewart as another example, she argued that Meghan's race adds an extra layer of expectation that she should somehow be more accessible, more grateful, more humble than her white counterparts in the lifestyle space. When she refuses to shrink herself or apologize for her wealth, the backlash intensifies. Some supporters have rallied around this interpretation, claiming that Meghan's barefoot hosting and casual approach should be celebrated as a black woman refusing to code switch or perform respectability politics for white comfort. They see her California lifestyle as a rejection of the stuffy British royal protocols that tried to constrain her, and they view criticism of her show as rooted in an unwillingness to let black women occupy spaces of leisure and luxury without constant scrutiny. However, many critics push back hard against framing all criticism as racist. They argue that Meghan's privilege, wealth, and tone deafness are fair targets regardless of her racial identity. Royal commentators point out that her Netflix show failed on its own merits, receiving terrible reviews from diverse critics across the political spectrum. The food safety issues were objectively problematic. The pretzel repackaging scene was genuinely absurd. The decision to film in a rental mansion while claiming authenticity was a legitimate contradiction worth calling out. The race conversation complicates everything, because it makes it nearly impossible to critique Meghan's choices without someone suggesting the criticism stems from bigotry rather than genuine concerns about hypocrisy and manipulation. Strip away all the noise, all the racial debate, all the kitchen disasters and barefoot symbolism, and what you're left with is actually pretty simple. Meghan Markle is desperate, not kind of desperate, not slightly concerned about her public image. We're talking full-blown panic mode as she watches her carefully constructed post-royal empire crumble around her. And the Barefoot Authenticity campaign is nothing more than a Hail Mary pass from someone who's running out of options and running out fast. Let's look at the brutal reality of where the Sussexes stand right now. Their $100 million Netflix deal that once seemed like a golden ticket out of royal life has produced exactly nothing that resonates with audiences. The Harry and Meghan docuseries in 2022 got attention but divided opinion sharply. Harry's Polo documentary in December 2024 received scathing reviews and failed to crack Netflix's top 10 list. Heart of Invictus and Live to Lead similarly underperformed. Now with Love, Meghan has joined the pile of Sussex content that critics savage and audiences largely ignore. The Spotify deal collapsed spectacularly, with the partnership ending after Meghan produced just one season of her Archetypes podcast. Industry insiders reported that Spotify executives were frustrated with the lack of content output from the Sussexes despite the massive financial investment. That failure sent shockwaves through Hollywood, signaling that maybe the Sussex brand wasn't the cash cow everyone assumed it would be. Sources close to the situation reveal that Meghan is genuinely shocked by how badly things have gone. She reportedly believed that once she escaped the constraints of royal life and the supposedly racist British media, American audiences would embrace her authentic self and she'd build a media empire rivaling Oprah or Martha Stewart. Instead, she's discovering that without the royal connection, she's just another celebrity trying to sell lifestyle content in an oversaturated market, and her particular brand of carefully curated authenticity isn't resonating with anyone. The barefoot hosting revelation needs to be understood in this context. This wasn't some spontaneous sharing of personal details. This was a strategic attempt to humanize herself and soften her image at a moment when public opinion has turned decidedly negative. With her Netflix show bombing, her brand facing plagiarism accusations, and her products either unavailable or poorly received, Meghan needed something to shift the narrative. She needed people to see her as warm, accessible, and genuine, rather than calculating and self-serving. But the strategy is backfiring because people can see through it. Royal commentators note that Meghan has a pattern of oversharing intimate details when it serves her purposes while demanding privacy when it doesn't. She'll talk about her bare feet and morning routines when she's trying to promote her brand, but she'll sue media outlets for publishing information she doesn't want public. The selective vulnerability feels manipulative rather than authentic. Industry insiders are now whispering that Meghan's options are narrowing rapidly. If the Netflix partnership doesn't produce something successful soon, the streaming giant may choose not to renew their agreement. Without that platform and income stream, the Sussex brand loses significant value and leverage in Hollywood. So where does this barefoot disaster leave Meghan Markle as 2025 marches forward? The outlook isn't pretty, and royal watchers are are already predicting that this latest relatability gambit will go down in history as just another spectacular miscalculation in a growing list of post-royal failures. The Duchess might have thought her shoeless hosting revelation would endear her to the masses, but instead it's become yet another punchline in the ongoing saga of a woman who seems fundamentally incapable of reading the room. Netflix has reportedly greenlit a second season of With Love, Meghan scheduled for fall 2025, but insiders question whether that's a genuine vote of confidence or simply the streaming giant trying to salvage some return on their massive investment. The first season's critical and audience reception was so poor that renewing it feels less like a celebration of success and more like throwing good money after bad. Royal commentators predict the second season will face even harsher scrutiny, with critics sharpening their knives and audiences already primed to mock whatever Meghan serves up next. The As Ever brand hangs in an equally precarious position. Despite Meghan's aggressive promotion and carefully orchestrated Instagram campaigns, the products remain largely unavailable or limited in quantity. The plagiarism controversies refuse to die down. The timing of product launches continues to feel chaotic and poorly managed. Industry experts note that successful lifestyle brands require consistency, quality, and authentic connection with consumers. Meghan's approach seems to prioritize image over substance, marketing over product, and the whole enterprise feels destined to join the growing graveyard of failed celebrity lifestyle ventures. But perhaps the most damning prediction comes from royal historians who study public perception and brand evolution. They're noting that Meghan has entered what they call the point of no return, where every move she makes gets interpreted through a lens of suspicion and criticism. The Barefoot hosting story perfectly illustrates this trap. Even if her intentions were genuinely pure and she really does greet guests without shoes to make them comfortable, the public no longer trusts her enough to take that at face value. Everything becomes evidence of manipulation, calculation, and desperate image management. Sources close to the Sussexes whisper that the couple's marriage is under strain as their professional ventures continue failing. Harry's separate appearances and solo projects suggest they're pivoting to individual brands rather than the united Sussex front they initially presented. If that partnership fractures publicly, Meghan loses one of her few remaining claims to relevance, her connection to the royal family through her husband. The next few months will likely determine whether Meghan can salvage anything from this post-royal chapter, or whether she's destined to become a cautionary tale about the limits of celebrity, the dangers of manufactured authenticity, and what happens when someone mistakes their royal title for actual talent or substance. The Barefoot controversy, petty as it might seem on the surface, actually reveals everything wrong with Meghan's current strategy. She's trying so hard to be relatable that she's become a parody of herself, and the harder she pushes, the more isolated she becomes. So what's next for the Barefoot Duchess? Probably more of the same. More carefully curated Instagram posts, more product launches that underwhelm, more attempts to convince the world she's just like us while living a life that couldn't be more different. And through it all, she'll keep wondering why nobody's buying what she's selling, never quite realizing that authenticity can't be performed. It has to be lived. And you definitely can't fake it while standing barefoot in someone else's rented mansion, serving wine from your own brand, and calling it demystifying. The meltdown continues, and honestly, at this point even Meghan's bare feet can't soften the fall. So what do you think? Is Meghan's barefoot hosting genuinely authentic, or is this just another desperate play for relatability that completely misses the mark? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe because trust me, the Sussex saga is far from over. The next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.